Why did the Seahawks lose Sunday? That's where we're starting this conversation. Why did they lose on Sunday? I'm glad that you mentioned the halves and the tale of two halves because that's what I wrote. I wrote second half offense. Second half offense is why they lost on Sunday. First half, you mentioned a lot of these stats. I'm going to go over them again. 12 total first downs, 4 of 7 on third down, 204 net yards, a nice little mix of rushing and passing. Not the rushing total you'd want, but they were on pace for a 100-yard day on the ground. Second half, 4 total first downs. 4 total first downs, just a third of your previous total. 1 of 8 on third down. You mentioned they were 1 of 11, so there were some third down failures towards the end of the second half, or end of the first half. 87 net yards, 73 passing yards, just 14 of those yards rushing. Oh.
Yeah, all bad. You got 68 yards total rushing. You have Geno, who played a decent game, right? I mean, this is a Geno type of game, 22 of 34, 233, and 1 touchdown. You lose Ken Walker early. I think that really hurt this team as well. So we got to see Zach Charbonnet. Zach, it was okay, 15 carries for 47 yards, 3.1 per clip. But you just couldn't get things going, man. This was a game that you kind of felt the snowball effect, right? You saw it coming. You're like, hold on, man. If we don't get a score here, things are all bad. If we don't get a stop here, things are all bad. And then the penalties. I don't know if this was the most penalized game in Pete Carroll's history. Probably not.
Certainly this season.
But when you break it down, man, when you're giving up that many yards when it comes to penalties, what they have at 12 for 130 yards. Now, some of these penalties were phantoms. Some of these penalties were like the penalty with Reek Hill on the sideline, squeezing the receiver to the sideline. You are coached to do that. Tutu Atwell's like your size. You barely touch him, he's going to fall over, right? And then the one Witherspoon in the end zone. He did not touch Puka. And both of those were on third downs and led to touchdowns. So that was crucial. Now, again, you don't want to leave it up to the referees, but when you're playing against the Rams, you know it's going to be a close game. You just can't have those penalties go down. So I look at those were the two that stuck out to me.
Yeah.
And then there was the illegal shift penalty by Bobo, and then you get a delay game right after. I'm like, you should already have a play. Like, what are we doing? So those little procedure things, those big 2 penalties, the penalty against Julian Love was legit. It was like 46 yards. He was trying to make a play on the ball. That was legit. It was just they couldn't get going in the second half, man. It was frustrating to watch.
Penalties, the number one answer on the Mac and Jack's text line in terms of why the Seahawks lost in Week 11. That was the question. Why did the Seahawks lose in Week 11? I said the second half offense, it just completely fell apart. You've pointed to, yes, a tale of two halves was your answer, but you also pointed to penalties as just absolutely killing this team. 12 for 130. Those 2 that you mentioned are also the 2 that really eat away at me following this game because there were penalties on the offense where I felt like the offense was hurting itself. There were some penalties on the defense where I was like, you know better. Come on. Like, what are you doing? But those 2 penalties, like you said, led to 10 points and a 17-16 win for LA. They were down 7 they were at 7 entering the fourth quarter. The 10 points on their final 2 drives came because of those 2 penalties. Maybe by the book you can say that they were penalties, but they did not need to be flagged. I will hold that take until the end of time.
The
Certainly not that one.
That one was crazy.
Pete Carroll took issue with that this morning on the Pete Carroll Show, being like, why are we calling this?
Yeah.
Like, this is something that did not only did it, with the Reek Woolen one, you can say, well, it didn't affect the play. It was on the other side of the field, but technically it was a penalty by the book. With Witherspoon, like, truly, what did he do?
Yeah, he did absolutely nothing. Puka sold it. He fell down. He threw his hands up, and he got the call. So I guess good for him for selling that. The one that hurt is the hands to the face by Reek Woolen. Again, had nothing to do with the play, but it's a penalty. You have to call that one.
Let's go back to those third down failures. Part of the second half woes that you and I pointed to start the game was specifically because of those third downs. And you know what? One of the things that really disappointed me in this game and about kind of this season so far has been that the team that they want to be, which is we want to be able to pound the rock, they haven't been able to do that consistently despite investing 2 second-round picks and 2 running backs. We saw more from Zach Charbonnet. Unfortunately, that was by virtue of Ken Walker being hurt, but we didn't see the production that we were hoping for. Is that because the Rams were so good against the run? Is it because Seattle just couldn't get it going? I mean, what did you see?
No, that Rams D-line is legit.
Yeah.
Or at least they were legit against the Seahawks. I don't watch all their games, but I'm watching the film, and Aaron Donald is a problem. His comrades on that line is a problem. And I saw our guards. I said going into this game, I go, it's going to be on the center and the guards, right? Because you're going to see one of the best players in the game, if not the best player in the game, in Aaron Donald, and this defensive line really get after you. And that's exactly what happened, man. They were shooting the gaps, quick with their hands. Kobe Turner's in the backfield. Jonah Williams, you got Aaron Donald. It seemed like they were just extremely confident and comfortable in what they were doing. And Aaron Donald, I tweeted this last night. I go, he's not going to show up on the stat sheet the way that you expect a great defensive player to show up, but he disrupted that game. It's rare that I see one guy on the defensive line just disrupt the game the way that he does and don't fill up the stat sheet. He's in the backfield. He's forcing running backs to go the other way. He's beating the guards. I'm like, this offensive line just could not handle Aaron Donald at all.
He was a one-man wrecking machine. The Seahawks still had a chance, despite all of this, despite all of these numbers that we've been throwing back and forth to open the show. The Seahawks had a chance to win it.